I never imagined I'd witness a captain's mistake leading to a life-changing encounter. The day started like any other. But when the wicked storm rolled in, crashing against our small sailboat, everything changed. I stood there, breathless, heart pounding like a drum. My best friend Sarah clutched the railing, her knuckles white, her face a mask of fear. Rain lashed down, stinging against my skin, as thunder rumbled through the air like the growl of an angry beast. I could smell the salt of the ocean mixed with a sense of impending doom. Waves towered over us, monstrous and dark, threatening to swallow us whole. "Hold on!" the captain shouted, voice barely cutting through the chaos. But then, in that moment, the captain made a choice, a single mistake that would alter our fates forever. He turned sharply, not realizing how close we were to the rocks. The boat lurched violently, and Sarah lost her grip, stumbling forward, eyes wide with terror. I felt my heart leap into my throat. I reached for her just in time. Our fingers brushed, that fleeting contact sparking a desperate hope. But the turbulent sea was relentless, slamming us sideways. I could hear the wood creak and splinter. My senses erupted in chaos, the wind howled, the waves crashed, and the cries of my friends filled the air. The sky flashed a blinding white, illuminating our panic for a split second. I could see the wild fear dance in Sarah's eyes as we hung onto each other, both terrified and exhilarated in that heart-stopping moment. The captain's blunder had not just put us in peril, it felt like a rift had opened, something mysterious stirring beneath the surface of my heart. Then it happened. A thundering crash like the world splitting in two. The boat felt as though it was breaking apart. I turned to see the captain staring into the distance, face drained of color. "We have to abandon ship," he screamed. Panic seized me. I felt the cold grip of fear wrap around my chest like a vice. Abandon ship? What did that even mean? The uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Would I survive this? Would I ever see home again? And what about Sarah? Another wave slammed into us, tossing me off balance. The next thing I knew, I was plummeting into the icy depths, darkness enveloping me. I gasped for air, the salty water burning my throat. Helpless, I felt my body struggle against the current, fighting for a glimmer of oxygen. As I sank deeper, the world above faded into a distant echo. I was drowning, but in that suffocating moment, a new thought blossomed. Was there someone down here with me? Lost in confusion, I grasped at shadows, trying to disentangle my thoughts from the panic, waiting hoping for a sign. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the cold, dark water surrounded me, I was momentarily enveloped by silence, the frenzied chaos of the storm above muted as if it belonged to another world. My heart pounded in my ears, and I kicked my legs, instinct kicking in, driving me upward. Each movement was a desperate grasp at life, but even as I fought against the depth, a strange peace settled within me, battling the fear laced in my veins. In that murky abyss, I felt a flicker of something deeper, an urgency to return, not just to the surface, but to the friendships and lives waiting in that torrid storm. Just as the last of my breath escaped my lips, strong hands found me, one wrapping tightly around my wrist, pulling me upward. I was yanked from that dark embrace, light swallowing me as I broke through the water's surface, gasping in air like a newborn. "Hang on!" a voice shouted, breaking through the lingering fog of panic. My vision swam, the world spinning into focus, revealing a tangle of chaos on deck. I squinted against the blinding dewy sunlight, feeling warmth creeping back into my body. There was Sarah, her face streaked with salt and fear, clinging to the railing, eyes wide as she spotted me. "Jenna!" she cried, desperation lacing her voice. Struggling to stay afloat, I yelled back, "I'm okay." But my voice came out as a strained whisper, the saltwater still stinging my lungs. The captain was scrambling, shouting orders, but the sounds of the sea swallowed his words. I set my sights on the life raft nearby, a hope glimmering like a lifeline, but the waves tossed it violently, pushing it further away. Just as I began to paddle toward it, I felt a shadow pass by, a figure slicing through the water. A moment later, I was inches from the lifeboat, the dark silhouette surfacing beside me. My heart dropped, the fear of the unknown swelling once more. It was a stranger, eyes fierce yet familiar, someone I'd never dared to imagine swimming alongside me amidst the storm. "Grab my arm," he commanded, his voice steady as he reached out. Conflicted thoughts clouded my mind. Could I trust him? But I caught the glint of kindness in his eyes, something genuine amidst the chaos. For a second, everything else faded: my anxiety about the captain's mistake, my worry about Sarah, the looming dangers of the storm. I took a leap of faith, grabbing his hand. I felt the strength of his grip as he pulled me toward safety, the raft's edge meeting my palm like a promise of survival. Just as I clambered aboard, I looked back, spotting Sarah. She was still holding on, her face a mix of fear and determination. I couldn't leave her behind. "Sarah!" I shouted, my voice raw, "I'm coming." Before I even had time to process my own actions, I dove back into the waves, desperation fueling my strokes. The stranger's puzzled gaze met mine, but I didn't care. I needed to save my friend. I swung my arms, pushing through the sea, reaching out to Sarah. But the storm had other plans. A monstrous wave emerged, crashing over me. The world darkened again, and once more, I was lost, spiraling in the rush of water. The hands that had pulled me ashore were gone, replaced by the fury of the sea. My lungs burned as I flailed, desperately seeking the surface. Just as it seemed I would drown in the abyss again, something cold brushed against my skin, the edge of a piece of debris. I clung to it, my mind racing. A voice echoed beneath the tumult, a soothing tone that seemed to beckon me, promising safety and warmth. It cut through the storm, resonating deep in my heart. I fought against the tide, dragging myself upwards, clinging to the hope perhaps defeat lay just beyond the waves. When I finally broke free, the sun hit my face like a gentle embrace. I gasped, eyes darting around, searching, desperately needing to find Sarah. She had to be there. Several men were still clambering onto the life raft, and I scanned the faces frantically. Then I spotted her and clutched a fuller breath of air in relief. But as Sarah reached for me, the sudden realization split through my heart like shattering glass. The captain had vanished, swallowed by the churning waves. A scream echoed in my chest, but it refused to escape. How could he go? How dared the storm claim him while we still fought? In that moment of newfound fear, my mind raced with the weight of that loss, the fear that perhaps the storm held darker secrets than we understood. And with uncertainty lurking in every corner, there was one thought that dug itself deep into my heart: what if the storm was far from over? As I pulled Sarah close, swollen with relief and dread, I felt the stranger's presence beside me. Instead of feeling comfort by his side, a spark of suspicion flickered. Why had he jumped in to save me? What hidden agendas did he bear beneath the facade of kindness? And just as the weight of those thoughts threatened to drag me under again, his hand brushed against mine. We were together in this storm, yet I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the depths still held unspeakable truths. The promise of survival hung heavy in the air, but the battle lay ahead, darkened with unforeseen challenges. And now, the storm had a new voice. My heart raced, holding secrets of its own, warning me of things unseen lying beneath the turbulent surface. My grip on Sarah tightened as a heavy silence settled within the lifeboat, our surroundings reduced to the chaotic remnants of splashing water and distant cries. The storm, now a mere backdrop, left behind a chilling aftertaste of fear that lingered, wet and heavy like the salt on my skin. The stranger beside Maya's form, both comforting and unnerving, remained quiet, his gaze focused on the horizon, where the sun battled the dark clouds, casting erratic shadows that danced across the sea. "Jenna," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking through the haze of my thoughts. We have to get everyone together. We can't just sit here." I turned to her, piecing together her expression of determination mixed with despair. "You're right. But look at them." I gestured toward the group gathered on the raft, men still gasping for air, reeling from their own brush with the tempest. "We need a plan. We need to." I trailed off, the weight of uncertainty throttling my thoughts. "We need to find the captain," Sarah insisted, biting her lip. "He might be out there." I shook my head, fighting the pang of despair that clawed at my chest. He was swallowed by the waves, Sarah. "We have to think about." Suddenly, a booming voice pierced our morose reverie, thick with authority and urgency. "Everyone, listen up." The stranger had found his voice, now commanding the attention of the lifeboat crowd. "We need to stay calm and keep our heads. Panic will get us nowhere." There was something in his tone that made me relax slightly. It was the essence of leadership stripped down to its core. Yet, my wariness never left. "What's your name?" I asked, meeting his steely gaze. "Eli," he replied. "And you've got an incredible will to survive, Jenna. But we need to get the others organized if we want to last." His eyes flickered to Sarah, then back to me, gauging our reactions. Desperation mingled with the flicker of trust one felt for him. "All right, Eli, what do you want us to do?" As he laid out a rough plan to gather the scattered survivors, I caught glimpses of hope threading through the adrenaline. Sarah and I exchanged determined nods, momentarily assuaging the fear that crouched in our hearts. The storm had forced us to confront our vulnerability, yet the flickering flame of kindness both in Ella's strength and Sarah's resolve promised that perhaps we could weather the aftermath together. Each person who came aboard the raft seemed to be a testament to survival in their own right, each carrying stories weighed down with layers of anguish and dreams unfulfilled. There was a young sailor whose hands trembled as he spoke of his family waiting back home, and an older gentleman with deep lines etched across his face, who claimed to have faced many storms but never one like this. In that moment, sharing our fears and aspirations became a form of therapy, softening the hard edges of despair surrounding us. We listened, offering hushed encouragements and prayers, while Eli diligently organized the supplies left on the raft, ensuring everyone had a little something to sip or nibble on as we drifted. As twilight began to stretch its arms across the sky, painting it in hues of regret and longing, a fleeting moment of peace descended. We leaned in closer, sharing not just our warmth but the threads of trust unwinding ever so slightly. Then, just as I closed my eyes, feeling the exhaustion seep into my bones, a sudden crash erupted nearby, a sharp echo breaking the tentative calm. The raft lurched, sending bodies sprawling. My heart raced as the storm mercilessly roared back to life, waves climbing higher, hungry for our refuge. "Hold on!" Eli shouted, his voice anchoring us amidst the chaos. I gripped the edge of the raft, clenching Sarah's hand and tearing my gaze towards the source of the commotion. Something appeared to be rising from the water, dark and hulking, the outline of a broken ship barely visible against the encroaching night. Gasps rippled through our makeshift family, hearts pounding in unison. Then, blinded by desperation and instinct, I dove over the edge again, propelled not by reckless fear but by a haunting voice that reverberated within me, a call barely heard amongst the thrashing waves. "No! Jenna!" Sarah's scream trailed after me, but I couldn't turn back. As I broke the water's surface, a realization surged forth: there was something beneath that wreckage, something I had to uncover. My heart pounded as I swam closer, grappling with the debris, each stroke a question echoing in the back of my mind. What lay within? My hands pierced through the fracture, pulling me into a pocket of space amidst the wreck. Broken wooden beams and shattered memories drifted aimlessly, but in the midst of that chaos, I spotted something shimmering, a metallic glint unmistakable even in the gloom. The answer to my unasked questions beckoned amidst the pieces of someone's past. With a renewed urgency, I reached toward it, the weight of everything I had endured wrapping tightly around me. I would either uncover this secret or drown trying. But just as I grasped the item, a wave crashed unexpectedly, yanking me backward. I fought against the pull, panic swirling like an undertow. The rush of water enveloped me again, and this time, darkness seeped into my soul, whispering promises of secrets buried far beneath. As I felt the weight of the world crash down, one final thought crashed into my consciousness: whatever I had found beneath that wreckage would change everything. Whatever the storm had in store for me, I had to face it head-on. And somewhere beyond the chaos, a part of me hoped I wouldn't do it alone. The cold grasp of the water tightened around me, a frigid embrace that seemed intent on pulling me deeper into its depths. My heart thundered in my ears, the world above fading into a distant memory as I fought against the visceral sense of drowning. Panic clawed at my throat, but the metallic glimmer I had seized ignited an instinctual fire within. I had to surface. With every ounce of strength, I kicked and clawed my way through the swirling chaos, my lungs screaming for air. Each stroke of my arms felt both futile and determined, propelling me toward a flicker of light above. At last, I burst through the surface, gasping, salt water streaming from my face as I heaved in precious breaths. The raft loomed large above me, and I could hear Sarah's terrified voice slicing through the sounds of the churning sea. "Jenna! Where are you?" "I'm here," I called, my voice raw but resolute. "I found something." I clutched the treasure against my chest, a cold weight that felt both foreign and familiar. The fear in Sarah's voice surged me onward, urging me to scale the side of the raft. Gripping the frayed edges, I heaved myself up, collapsing onto the wood, shivering from both the chill of the ocean and the adrenaline still surging through me. Eli was at my side in an instant, concern etching deep lines across his brow. "What did you find?" His gaze flickered from my pale face to the item I held tightly that I forced my trembling fingers to loosen their grip. The object, a locket, tarnished and weathered by the storm, partly dangled from a delicate chain. I could see the outline of a beautifully carved design on its surface, though it was partially obscured by darkness and salt. "There was something about it that tugged at the edges of my memory. "We need light," he said urgently. "Turn it over." There was a gentle firmness in his tone, accompanied by the raw honesty that seemed to unearth a hidden strength within me. I reluctantly turned the locket over in my palm, and there, against the storm-ridden backdrop of our reality, lay a name etched in delicate cursive: Evelyn. My breath hitched, memories swirling like shadows from the past, stories of an aunt I barely knew, whose name sparked a flicker of connection in the midst of chaos. What was her locket doing here, amid the wreckage of a shattered world? This was my aunt's," I stammered, the realization wrapping around me like a tether to a life I had left behind. "Are you sure?" Ella's brows knit together in disbelief. I nodded, shocked by the overwhelming rush of emotion. "She had a locket just like this. It was passed down in our family." The shock in his eyes transformed into a deeper understanding. "We have to open it," he urged. His insistence, however, felt eclipsed by the wave of uncertainty cresting inside me. What would I find within? An image, a letter, or a secret that might unravel past mysteries? As I wrestled with my thoughts, the sounds of the survivors around us began to fade away. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, jolting me from my reverie. The young sailor I had seen earlier was struggling against the waves, fear gripping his face as he was pulled to the side of the raft. "Help!" he cried, his voice breaking. Instinct kicked in, and without thinking, I sprang to my feet. "Hold on. We're coming." I grasped for him, my heart racing as I stretched my arms out in a desperate attempt to grasp his flailing hand. But just as our fingers nearly met, a sudden lurch struck the raft, sending me stumbling backward. I felt the locket slip from my grip, plummeting into the depths below. "No!" I shouted, realizing that the most tangible connection to my past had slipped away again. The world spun around me as my heart sank into despair. I turned my eyes back to the young sailor, who was now losing grip and slipping beneath the surface, the weight of fear distorting everything we had fought for. "Jenna!" The distant cries of the survivors swirled in my ears, a chorus of fear that mingled with churning chaos. But I couldn't let him drown. I couldn't let anyone drown. With each passing moment, determination surged within me, hope sparking anew. Hold on. I'm coming. I dove again, piercing the water with renewed purpose. My hands scoured the darkness for the sailor, but the tumultuous waves shifted and tumbled, obscuring his figure. The depths below me felt both haunting and sacred, but fear nudged at my heart. What if I was too late? As I kicked toward where I had last seen him, a pull of reluctance tugged me inward. The storm raged on, but there remained an echo of kindness within the chaos, the flickering hope that I could save him. I pushed against the weight of the water, driven not just by desperation but by the promise that lives were still intertwined within this chaotic tapestry of fate. Then, as I clawed my way through the dark, my fingers grazed the sailor's shirt. I hauled him upward, feeling his weight pressing down against me as I fought to reach the surface, where the breath of life awaited. But just as we broke through the water's surface, a powerful wave crashed down, knocking both of us off balance. I gasped for air but couldn't catch my breath, my vision murky as I struggled to keep him afloat. "Let go!" he shouted, panic slicing through his voice as he fought against my hold. "I can't, please!" I cried, clutching him tighter. "I won't let you go." As I felt the grip of the ocean tighten around us, a glimmer of light in the distance shimmered toward the raft, a flicker of hope that might just lead us back to safety. Or was it the siren call of despair, beckoning us to succumb to the depths? With one final push against the encroaching darkness, I clenched my teeth, willing my body to move, knowing that whatever lay ahead would shape the journey of our lives forever. Together, we would either break free from these surging depths or be swallowed by the tempest, but there, within the eye of the storm, held the secrets of all our futures, waiting to be uncovered. The struggle for breath clawed at my throat as I fought against the surging waves, each swell threatening to drown out the hope I clung to. I gritted my teeth, feeling my muscles burn with exertion as I clutched the sailor to me, trying to keep us both afloat. Panic clouded his eyes, reflecting mine as we bobbed in the water's chaotic rhythm, lost between life and despair. "Just hold on," I gasped, my feet finding purchase for a moment as the surface leveled around us. "Just a little longer." But fear coursed through him, and I could feel him fighting to break free of my grasp. "We're going to make it." Just as I caught a glimpse of the fragile shelter of the raft, a crushing weight bore down on us, a wave crashing from behind, pulling me further under. "No!" I screamed, a sound that came out as a strangled gasp, but my determination surged as I kicked my legs, propelling us up toward the surface again. We surfaced with a violent splash, and I raised my head toward the distant cries of my friends. Their voices felt like lifelines woven through the storm. With renewed resolve, I turned back to the sailor, who had gone slack in my grip, his fear eclipsed by resignation. "Stay with me," I urged, channeling every ounce of hope I had left into my voice. "We're almost there." The raft loomed above us, but it felt as if it were perpetually out of reach, the current pulling us away just when we needed to be drawn in. "Let me go," he whispered, his voice barely reaching me over the tumult. "You have to save yourself, damn it, I'm not leaving you," I shouted back, desperation giving fire to my words. Just then, Eli appeared at the edge of the raft, his silhouette framed against the flickering light. "Jenna!" His voice rang out, edged with panic. "What's happening?" I could see the urgency in his eyes, the determination pulsing just beneath the surface, but I couldn't let him bear the burden of making that choice. "Help me!" I cried. "I can't pull him up without you." The sailor's hand tightened around my wrist. "You need to let me take you." Ella's voice boomed, breaking through the chaos. "If you let go of her, she'll fall." But there was no time for negotiation. The waves surged again, and I could feel the cold grip of the sea threatening to swallow us whole. In that desperate moment, I felt the weight in my heart shift, turning from despair to resolve. "I had a plan. On three," I breathed, glancing back at the struggling sailor. 1, 2, 3. With a force I didn't know I had, I rounded my arm around the sailor's waist. Eli reached down, taking hold of my other arm. Together, we pulled bounding against the tumult of the ocean. As we broke free of the water's grasp, for a fleeting moment, everything felt synchronized, the three of us, linked by a thread of raw fortitude. Suddenly, the sailor slipped through my fingers, twisting just out of Ellis' grasp. My heart plummeted with despair as his face contorted in panic, but then Eli lunged, arms stretching out just in time to wrap around him. They tumbled into the raft together, the moment of tenuous abandonment transforming into fragile salvation. Got him! Eli shouted, pulling the sailor up onto the raft as I flailed to regain my footing. I climbed up, gasping for breath, and collapsed against the wooden surface. All around me, voices mingled, a tide of relief and fear, laughter and sobs, each note adding to the orchestrated chaos of survival. "Thank you," the sailor gasped, his face pale and eyes wide with shock. "I thought you thought wrong," Eli interjected, already checking for injuries as he helped the sailor sit up. "Look at you, you can't just give up." Relief surged through me, but at the same time, a sense of urgency crackled in the air. I looked around at our makeshift family, Sarah, whose hands trembled as she clutched her arms, and other survivors, faces drawn with tension. We might have escaped the clutches of the ocean, but the storm still raged around us, and we were merely holding onto a fragile existence. Is everyone accounted for? I asked, heart pounding. My eyes searched each face, hoping for the comforting answer, but anxiety gnawed at my insides like a relentless tide. "Nearly everyone," Sarah replied, her voice trembling. "But we lost contact with the captain." The words hit me like a cold slap. Lost contact with the captain. My thoughts raced back to the sinking vessel, the man whose choices had led us to this moment of despair. Was he still fighting? Had he perished underneath the waves? "We need to go back," I blurted out, the conviction flowing before I could second-guess myself. "We can't just leave him, no." Eli protested, his brow furrowing in agitation. "Jenna, we can't. It's too dangerous. The storm will swallow us." The distress in his voice brushed against the raw corners of my heart, but stubbornness ignited a fire within me. "And if he's still out there?" "We can't leave him behind, Eli." Before he could reply, a thunderous crash echoed in the distance, a sound that felt as if it clawed at the very fabric of our reality. It reverberated through my bones, shaking my resolve. But the desperation in my heart remained a steadfast flame. "The captain couldn't simply be abandoned." "I am going back," I declared, my gaze searching for allies. "Who's with me?" At that moment, fear and hope danced in the air, mingling with the salt and chaos, and as uncertainty hovered like a ghost, a hand settled gently on my shoulder, a reassuring warmth amidst the turmoil. I turned to find the sailor, his expression solemn yet resolute. "I won't let you go alone." As the storm continued to rage against the weakened raft, beneath the cacophony of uncertainty, another wave of revelations loomed in the shadows. The locket lost to the depths, the captain gone, connections trembling on the precipice of fate, all intertwining threads that would either weave a tapestry of salvation or unravel into chaos. And just when I thought the world could not throw anything worse our way, a figure emerged from the misty horizon. A boat, its silhouette stark against the gray sky, inching toward the wreckage of memories, carrying the weight of a secret buried beneath the despair. As it cut through the waves, I could not help but feel that this vessel, too, would bridge the chasm between what was lost and what we all desperately sought to reclaim. The rain continued to lash down in sheets, each droplet a tiny, biting reminder of how quickly our lives had spiraled into chaos. The raft surged like a heartbeat, pushing us one moment closer to safety and threatening to toss us back into despair the next. I squinted against the unrelenting storm, the figure at the horizon growing clearer by agonizing degrees. My heart thrummed in my chest, a contraction of fear and fervor. Eli stood next to me, his face shadowed but taut with an unyielding resolve. "Jenna," he said with an intensity that cut through the cacophony, "we can't just jump into whatever that is." "It could be, or it could be our chance," I cut in, my voice quaking but resolute. "We can't wait here, Eli. Not when we don't know what we're up against." He grasped my shoulders, forcing me to meet his gaze. "What if it's worse? What if?" But the captain's fading image tormented my thoughts, a ghost woven from our despair. Each frantic heartbeat seemed a plea for action, there was no room for more hesitation. We have to take the risk. The captain wouldn't want us to sit here when there's still hope. Eli opened his mouth to counter, but the echoes of a roaring engine drowned him out, the mechanical hum of the approaching boat rising above the storm like an anthem to our uncertainty. Look! I shouted, vitality reigniting as I pointed. They're here. They must have seen us or the wreckage. The nearby sailors turned their gazes toward the horizon, their expressions a blend of fatigue and trepidation. The tension in the air shifted, a collective inhale as reality collided with hope. Then, as the boat glided closer, a piercing shriek of recognition erupted from Sarah. "That's the Coast Guard!" she cried, her face lighting up with astonished relief that sent ripples of optimism through the crowd, but beneath it all lingered the fear of being left behind. "Don't forget the captain," I urged, my senses sharpening. "If they think it's too dangerous they have to learn about him, Jenna," Eli said firmly, pulling me back from the edge of frenzy. "They'll be able to help. Just get them to understand. You're the one who saw." Suddenly, the boat spun into a tight arc, fishing through the tumult of waves toward us. The figurehead of the crew, determined and resolute, stood at the helm, shouting orders into the roaring wind. My heart raced, caught in the undertow of disbelief. A miracle in the midst of ruin, yet the void where the captain should be gnawed at my insides like hungry wolves. "Where's the captain?" I breathed, desperation threading through my tone as the boat drew dangerously close, the noise becoming almost unbearable. "He's still out there." The crew, clad in drenching rain gear, were now assessing our makeshift gathering. They locked onto our faces, summoning expressions of sympathy and determination, but then one of them, a woman with fierce, sharp eyes, pushed through. "We need to take you aboard, it's not safe here. But first, we need to know what's happened." "How many are you?" "7, Eli interjected, breath hitching as he spoke, his eyes darting nervously around the raft. "But we're missing our captain. He went down with the ship. Did anyone else?" The woman pressed, her voice turning urgent, piercing through the pain that held us captive. I felt the sigh of burden escape me. "No. Just him. He tried to save us." The weight and sorrow of that moment welled within me, spilling over. The helplessness I felt might drown me. "He needs your help. You should have told us sooner. We can search, but time is running out." The woman's eyes hardened, summoning a fierce resilience. The engine roared louder, and in the back of my mind, I felt a swell of emotions: anger, fear, the weight of losing a man whom I wished I'd known better, a captain who had put himself on the line for those who depended on him. Just then, a shout ripped through the chaos, the tension fracturing as another figure emerged from the mist behind the boat, surfacing from the depths like a lost ghost. A figure wearing a life jacket, but there was no mistaking the face that emerged amidst the waves. "Captain!" I screamed, my heart pounding ferociously against the confines of my chest. Suddenly everything seemed suspended: the rain, the storm, the thunder, all life eclipsed in that one moment. He bobbed there, struggling against the intensity of the waves, his expression hidden beneath a tangle of soaked hair. But just as quickly as the relief surged, the harsh grasp of reality gripped my heart again. What if he didn't make it? "Someone help him!" I yelled, pointing frantically at the man fighting against the relentless sea. The woman at the helm called down orders, scrambling for ropes as the men prepared to leap. But I felt weightless, entranced by the chaos. My breaths were shallow, my heart refusing to slow in its frantic rhythm, clinging to the hope that surged around me. Eli grabbed my arm, pulling me away from the edge of the raft where I stood, nearly frozen in disbelief. "Jenna, it's too dangerous. We need to get you on board, now." But just before I could respond, the storm howled anew, and a set of monstrous waves thundered down upon us, towering like giants. The raft was tossed and splintered, and I felt an urgent dread grip me as chaos enveloped my reality. From the depths of turmoil, the captain was swallowed whole, vanishing beneath the foam, his face fading from view as the water roared, leaving a chilling void that extinguished all light. I could only stare, numb, my heart pounding louder than the very storm that threatened to drown us all. No. I screamed, my voice lost to the ferocious winds, despair crashing down upon me as the boat's engine sputtered, and the world around me blackened with uncertainty. Somewhere deep within the turbulent depths, the line between hope and despair began to fray, and I realized this was only the beginning of our fight, captains, ghosts, and the heart's unyielding yearning for what it had lost, all thundering together into the heart of destiny's wild tempest. The storm raged on, relentless and unforgiving. I clung to a portion of the raft, my fingers numb, but still locked in a vice-like grip around the cold, worn wood. Eli was shouting something, but his words were swallowed by the roar of the waves and the torrents of rain. My gaze fixed on the water, scanning frantically for any signs of the captain, a desperate search laced with a creeping dread that settled like lead in my stomach. Jenna. We need to go. Ella's hand was firm on my shoulder, but it barely penetrated the fog of panic that enveloped me. I couldn't let go it now, not when it felt like everything I'd ever cared for was disappearing beneath the surface. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a spark of hope piercing through the stormy deluge. There! I shouted, my heart leaping. I could have sworn I saw a hand break through the frothy waves. It was too far, too short, but it was something, anything. He's there, Jenna, stop. Eli pleaded, his voice thick with fear. We can't do anything. We're not equipped for this. I felt my heart shatter. How could he give up? The captain had risked everything for us, even with the odds stacked against him. I understood then, in that wild cacophony of emotions, that hope had become a separate entity, erratic and elusive, yet it pulsated through me as a living breath, refusing to die. They're coming for him, I whispered, more to myself than to Eli. The Coast Guard, having heard my screams, had sent their crew into the tempest. As two men readied themselves to jump overboard, lines of serried courage etched across their faces, I felt a momentary spark of strength build within me. Could he be saved? Was he fighting? Suddenly, from the corner of my eye, I spotted a flicker of orange, something that seemed to ripple through the waves, a life preserver. There! I yelled again, pointing fervently. The men in the boat sprang into action, moving in perfect sync to reach the captain's side, a stunning ballet of bravery in the chaos. Keep yelling, Jenna. Stay focused, the woman barked from the helm, her no-nonsense energy igniting my resolve. She watched, alert and commanding, her eyes darting between her men and the turmoil of the waves. The seconds stretched, unbearably long, as I held my breath. I was a witness to the battle more than I was a participant, as if my body had become an observer of the fray, suspended in time. Then came the strangled, labored sounds of exertion. A shout. Followed by another. And just when I thought despair would take Muhen, the weight of mourning the captain became so heavy it threatened to crush me. A figure broke the surface, that orange buoy bobbing like a lighthouse in the stormy sea. Hold on! Echoed the voice of the rescuer, muscles straining as they hoisted the captain up with all their might. Relief cascaded over me in waves, but then reality took a cruel turn. The captain slumped over, his limbs lax. Was he too late? Was it possible to lose him now after everything we had survived? Where's the medkit? The woman shouted, clearly a seasoned leader. Get him aboard now. The captain was pulled from the water, but horror gripped my chest as I glimpsed his lifeless state, soaking wet, too still. I watched as Eli fell to his knees, recoiling from the sight of a man he had once deemed invincible. The crew clambered around him, frantically assessing his condition, and with each frantic movement, I felt my heart tear a little further apart. He's not breathing. Someone yelled. No. I cried, a rawness in my throat as I fought to surge forward, but Eli held me back, and my strength faltered. I felt every heartbeat of despair flood me, and I was drowning anew with loss, with fear, with the nightmare of realizing he was by no means safe. At that moment, beneath the sheets of rain, as the world around me shrank into a bleak void filled only with uncertainty, an idea flickered. The captain had risked his life so that we could breathe, so that we could forge ahead. We can't let him go, I whispered desperately, my voice trembling with a newfound urgency. We have to fight for him, in the midst of all the darkness. A sliver of defiance ignited within. If the captain had demonstrated courage, then perhaps we could honor that legacy. Perhaps we could face the storm together. Do something. I shouted, my voice rising above the chaos, resting on the thin wire of desperation and tenacity. It was then that I noticed a distant glow slicing through the gray, piercing the tempest like a beacon. Hope swelled once more, clawing back against the strong currents of despair. Was it rescue? Could it be the dawn's light amidst the storm's fury? As the chaos swirled around us, my breath caught the lifeline stretching out toward me but far beyond reach. I felt the tide of fate shifting, and with it came a resounding truth: we weren't done fighting yet. Without warning, another wave crashed down, throwing me off balance. I stumbled, lost for a moment, and in that chaos, spilled from the depths of my heart came a chilling realization: I could not lose another soul in this storm. The captain was out there, but if I didn't find a way to act, if I didn't take that leap of faith, we would all drown together in the shadows of the unknown. As I steadied myself and prepared for the uncertainties ahead, that distant light flickered brighter, and amidst the raging storm, I felt the stirrings of hope take root. But the revelation that clawed at my insides made dread coil around my heart. I knew we had to confront more than just the storm. What lay ahead promised both rescue and revelation, and nothing would ever be the same again. The storm's fury continued to rage around us, a merciless reminder of our fragility. The wind screamed through the chaos, drowning out my thoughts as uncertainty clung to the air like a thick fog. I could hardly comprehend the scene unfolding before Meth Coast Guard team working feverishly to save the captain. Their hands moved with frantic urgency, but my heart was heavy with dread that the captain might not be saved. I turned to Eli, desperation etched across his face, and pleaded, "We have to believe he'll make it. We have to fight." I didn't know how, but I had to summon every ounce of strength left in me. Suddenly, Eli's hand slipped from my shoulder, and he staggered backward, eyes wide, as he stared at the scene where a new shadow emerged from the swirling tempest, a figure I couldn't quite make out yet. Jenna. Eli's voice was tinged with panic as he pointed beyond the craft, where a jagged shape lurked amid the foamy waves. The unease in his voice was palpable, tethered to an instinct I wished I could ignore. What if it's another victim? We need to move away from here. But as I squinted into the darkness, hope flickered anew. A face broke the surface of the briny abyss, gnarled and scraggly, the very embodiment of desperation. It was neither a savior nor another victim, but someone altogether unexpected. Each caught breath felt like a lash against my heart. Why had he turned up now? Is that Eli? Stammered, disbelief flooding his voice. Is that him? The recognition hit me like a slap as the figure swam closer. The man emerging from the waves was one of the captain's old friends and fellow sailors, Reed, someone I had met once in a quiet tavern where tales of glory were shared over tankards of ale. He was known for his rebellious spirit, having sailed the winds only to clash against the storms of life itself. What had brought him back into our lives now felt like a cruel twist orchestrated by fate. "Reed!" I shouted, shock mingling with desperation, but the storm swallowed my words. I could barely see his expression, only the struggle evident in his strokes through the thrashing water. Then he was upon us, gasping as he clambered aboard. His hair was drenched, and the water streamed off him in rivulets, but his eyes, those fierce, stormy eyes, held a grit that ignited something within me. He grasped my shoulders and pulled himself close, voice barely piercing the howl of the storm. "The captain, he needs you. Now." What are you? How?" I stammered, the world shaky beneath my feet. Was this really a blessing or another perilous twist? My heart raced, fluctuating between hope and anxiety. Reed shook his head sharply, urgency crashing over us like the waves that battered the raft. "There's no time." I saw him go under, was reaching for something. He paused, scanning the water with wide-eyed panic. "They're coming back for him, but you need to be ready when he resurfaces." His voice dropped to a pleading whisper, "Jenna, we cannot let him drown in this storm." I felt fire ignite at his words, embers of tenacity kindling deep within. "We won't. I shouted back, determination surging as I glanced towards the distant light, still flickering like a fragile candle against the tempest. I won't lose him. Ella's hand gripped my wrist, grounding me as the chaos surged anew. But what if we can't? What if it's too late? His voice trembled, and in it, I could feel an all-encompassing fear clawing to the surface. But what if we can? I countered, suddenly resolute. It's not over yet. We owe it to him to all of us to keep fighting. As I spoke, I caught sight of the Coast Guard team moving with a new purpose, their heads nodding towards each other curiously as they sensed something was shifting in the air. The crew was working not just to save a life, but to kindle hope amid despair, and that energy rippled around us. We can't let the storm take him from us, I added, and I turned to Reed. What do we do? Let this guide you, Reed said, extending his hand toward me. Remember what the captain taught us about survival. We pushed through together, the flicker of distant light that had drawn my gaze now danced brighter, as if heaven itself were illuminating our path. I felt heartened, bolstered by Reed's words and the support surrounding me, yet anxiety coursed through my veins. I could sense time was running thin, the captain's breaths fragile like the wisp of smoke in the storm. My heart ached for a man whose sacrifice echoed within me, pushing me closer to the brink of action. Suddenly, a surge of water erupted from the depths, and there he was, the captain, breaking the surface one last time. I felt breathless as I watched Eli leap towards him, hands reaching desperately, yet I held back, unwilling to succumb to swift action without a plan in mind. No, you'll capsize the raft, I screamed, as I felt the tide beneath our feet shifting disquietingly, but it was too late. Eli was in the water, moving haphazardly toward the captain. In that instant, everything came to a standstill. Fear wrestled with hope, while dread clawed at my insides. Someone needs to go after them, I shouted, desperate to anchor the chaos spiraling out of control. Reed's fierce determination was a grounding force beside me. Then we go together, he replied, pulling his jacket from his shoulders and thrusting it toward me. We make his fight ours. Now, and just as the clouds above seemed to darken, a crack of lightning illuminated the scene, revealing the intensity of what lay ahead. In the piercing silence that followed, my heart thundered against my chest, and I weighed my options. Would I leap into the uncertain depths of the storm, trusting that we could reclaim our captain, or would cowardice drown everything we had believed in? Every ounce of hope left. In the split second it took to make a choice, clarity washed over me. I had fought against the currents of despair for too long. Whatever waited in the dark, I was ready to face it. Taking Reed's hand, we surged forward, plunging into the turmoil below, two souls on a desperate quest to rescue one broken captain. As we broke beneath the surface, darkness enveloped me, absorbing all the fear and doubt. Yet a flicker of the distant glow remained, a beacon urging us onward, promising that in this fight, we would discover more than just survival. As I fought against the waves, I whispered a prayer into the depths, hoping we'd find a way back to the light before it swallowed us whole. The salt water stung my eyes as I submerged, my lungs screaming for air. Panic surged through me, but there was no time to hesitate. Beside me, Reed propelled forward with purpose, his determination cutting through the encroaching darkness like a blade. I reached for him, our fingers brushing together as we took a breath in unison before plunging deeper, searching for the captain. I strained against the weight of the ocean, fighting to keep my thoughts clear amidst the chaos. Memories of the captain's laughter seeped into my mind, the way he would regale us with tales of adventure and survival, each story fluttering with the heartbeat of hope. I could almost hear his voice urging us to push through the tempests of life, to never let despair win. That memory ignited a fire within me, urging my limbs to move faster, to reach him before the storm snuffed out our light forever. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught my eye, a dark shape blending into the swirling mass. I strained to see, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Was it him? Or was it the cold grip of fate tightening around us, ready to claim another soul? Reed's hand found my arm, pulling me closer as he gestured toward the dark silhouette. Together, we surged through the icy water. Then, I saw the captain, struggling against the ominous pull of the sea. His arms flailed weakly, desperate for a lifeline. I felt a scream rising in my throat, a guttural sound of fear and urgency. "Captain!" I yelled, but the water muffled my cry, leaving it a mere bubble escaping into the abyss. As I surged forward, I felt the panic bubbling inside me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. The water was churning, a whirlpool of uncertainty dragging us downward. My heart broke at the sight of the man who had been a guiding star, one I had always looked up to. He was faltering, and I was terrified that once again, the ocean would claim an innocent life. Reed reached him first, wrapping his strong arms around the captain. It was an act of courage that ignited a spark of hope within me. I moved beside them, my hands trembling as I grasped the captain's sturdy frame. In that moment, the world shrank to just the three of USA desperate crew clinging to one another amid chaos. "Hold on!" I shouted, pushing against the current, praying our combined strength would be enough to fight our way back to the surface. The captain's eyes met mine, familiar but now clouded with fear. "Jenna," he whispered, and I felt his grip weaken. My heart slammed in my chest, a rapid drum that matched the tumult around us. I couldn't let him slip away. "I am here. We're here," I replied, voice cracking as I urged him on. Just a little further, but just as we began to ascend, sharp pain pierced through my leg, a captured anchor pulling me back into the depths. I gasped, panic clawing at my throat as I kicked wildly, fighting the weight dragging me further underwater. Reed and the captain surged upwards, swiftly breaking through the surface, their breaths loud and labored against the raging storm. "Jenna!" Reed's voice echoed above the roar, but I was trapped, the icy grip of the sea snaring me. In that suffocating moment, I made a choice. With a final burst of energy, I pushed against the anchor's weight, clawing free and rising to the surface, gasping and spluttering as I broke into the open air. The storm battered against my skin, stinging like sharp needles. In the wild chaos surrounding me, I saw Eli struggling on the makeshift raft, eyes wide with fear, pleading for our return. Instinctively, I called out to him, my voice breaking. "We need to get him. Bring the raft." Eli nodded urgently, eyes darting toward Reed and the captain, who were both grasping at my hands, desperate and battered but alive. With swift determination, Eli leaned over the edge, extending his arm as I locked my grip firmly around the captain's waist. "Faster, Eli!" I urged, hearing the distant thunder roar overhead. Suddenly, from the shadows, another wave crashed, sending chills racing through me as if the very ocean was conspiring against our survival. The force propelled us backward, pulling everything we had fought for into the abyss again. My heart dropped as I felt the captain slip from my grasp, the ocean seizing him back into the depths. No! I screamed, my voice lost amid the cacophony, a desperate plea tumbling into the void. The world spun wildly, drenched in chaos and dread, but there was still flickering hope in our hearts. Reed's grip tightened around the captain as we fought against the swell, tunneled vision locked on rescuing the man who had guided our sails. There was light bobbing somewhere above the waves, the air crackling with urgency, but the relentless grip of uncertainty clung to us, suffocating, dark. But then it happened. The storm shifted as if sensing our pleas. A sudden calm surrounded us, an eerie silence piercing through the crashing roars of the sea. Time froze, and I felt Ida presence, a warmth, wrapping around us like an embrace, promising safety amid the storm. Reed's body jolted as he pulled the captain closer. "We need to go." And then, out of nowhere, clarity descended upon me. An unnatural light glimmered beneath the waves, a lighthouse of hope illuminating our fight. "Together!" I called out, with tears mingling with the rain on my cheeks. "We fight together." As we struggled upwards once more, I caught sight of what the light would bring, not just the promise of rescue, but the resolve that would chase away the shadows of our past. I could feel a heartbeat within, something was changing. Just as we broke the surface again, the sound of sirens merged with the snap of lightning, wrapping around us like a tangible force. But as I turned to see the raft rushing toward us, my heart seized with dread. I would not lose anyone else to the ocean. Climbing into the raft, a gasp escaped my lips, horror pooling in my stomach. A shadow stirred below, drawing nearer. Was it the captain that would resurface, or were we repeating the cycle of heartache? The horizon dimmed, a new storm brewing above. As I turned my gaze toward the dark expanse, a revelation struck me with the intensity of a tidal wave. I had always thought of storms as trials to endure, but perhaps they were also the vessels that carried us toward one another, the fiercest battles begetting the strongest bonds. But even as that hope flickered like a fragile candle against the night, I realized, the fight was not yet over. And as my heart thundered with dread and resolve, I knew that whatever secrets the storm held, we would uncover them together. They would not steal another moment from us without a fight, but what weighty cost would that revelation demand, and would the shores reveal what lay behind the veil of hope? Only the deepening shadows knew, and as we clung to one another, poised on the precipice of something profound, I felt the waves shifting ominously beneath us, an undertow pulling at the very fabric of our determination. The storm raged on, its furious grasp tightening around us like a vice, but amidst the chaos, something shifted within me. Time felt suspended, every heartbeat a reminder of the imminent danger we faced together. Eli, Reed, the captain, each human tethered to one another in this merciless tempest, fueled the fire burning deep inside. I wasn't just fighting for survival, I was battling for the very soul of the man who had steered us through countless storms before this. That I could almost hear the captain's voice, steady and resolute, urging us to hold fast amidst uncertainty. It became my mantra, a litany echoing through my mind. "We won't let you go," I whispered, a promise woven into the fabric of my being. Hand in hand, we propelled ourselves through the relentless waves, determination forging the path through the dark water. Then I saw a fleeting glimpse of the captain's silhouette beneath the chaotic surface, a familiar flicker of strength battling against the tide. My heart soared, frantically searching for a way to him. "There!" I cried, hoping against hope. As we navigated the tumultuous water, it seemed an eternity had passed. The shadowy silhouette now appeared closer, moments of desperation pulling me forward, one agonizing stroke at a time. Reed and I locked eyes, and without exchanging words, we surged forward together. The captain was fighting to stay afloat, his arms flailing as he reached for the surface, for freedom. I could see it in his eyes, the same unyielding spirit reflected in mine. With renewed vigor, we propelled ourselves forward as life itself clung to the captain's every breath. "Get him!" Eli shouted from the raft, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon of hope. Hand outstretched, Eli was a manifestation of everything we yearned for: the will to keep fighting, the instinct to protect. Reed dove beneath the surface, slipping through the chaos to wrap his arms around the captain's waist. I followed close, desperation fueling every kick, pushing me deeper into the icy grasp of the ocean. The fear of losing him gripped me like the salty water surging around us. The captain's head bobbed just below the surface, caught in the rising tide. "Stay with us, Captain!" I screamed, the words bursting from my lips like a prayer. Beneath the yearning for salvation, I sensed something profound shifting within me. I wasn't just afraid, I was fierce. I couldn't shy away from the depths any longer. Reed found him first, his grip steady and reassuring. I reached for them both and felt the surge of life pulsing through our connect-ion, a rallying cry against the madness of the storm. Together, we pushed toward the surface, fighting against all odds. With a final burst of energy, we broke free from the water's grip, gasping for air. Eli's arms stretched wide to welcome us, and together we climbed onto the raft, pulling the captain up alongside us. I could see the faint warmth in his eyes, flickering like a dying sun at dusk. "That's it. You made it." Ellis' voice rang out like a celebration, a mixture of relief and disbelief woven into the wonder of survival. But the captain lay motionless on the wood, a haunting stillness shadowing his form. Panic enveloped us again, the reality crashing over us like another wave. "Captain!" I shook him, dread gnawing at my insides as I searched his face, longing for him to awaken. "Please. Your fight isn't over," but his eyes did not flutter open. Instead, around us, the storm began to quiet, the angry winds whispering as if the earth itself had paused to mourn. My heart raced, dread clawing at me while I desperately searched through the remnants of hope. Did all our struggles lead to this moment, wrested from our grasp by an indifferent ocean? As though answering my silent plea, Eli knelt beside me, placing his hand over the captain's heart. A moment of stillness descended upon us, and my breath caught in my throat. He's still alive. We can save him. Ella's voice was resilient, but I didn't know how. I let myself be enveloped by the chaos of emotions crashing against each other within me. The captain's sacrifice nagged at me, pushing me to fight against the despair threatening to swallow Yuzul. His lessons, all his stories echoed back now. To survive meant to cling to life, to persevere despite the odds. Breathe. I shouted, struggling to contain the fear rising within me. I could feel every ounce of hope coursing through my veins, igniting fierce determination to revive him. Breathe. With each imploring word, I folded myself around the grim reality, coaxing light into the shadows, and just then, an exquisite astonishment flooded back through me. We can do CPR. Eli, help me. Steeling myself, we moved with urgency, our connection harmonizing into a rhythm born of necessity. Both of us pressed down rhythmically over the captain's chest, willing life back into him, begging fate to allow this brave heart to continue to beat amidst the terrible storms. Moments stretched and twisted, and the world beyond us seemed to dissolve into darkness. There was only the weight of our actions, the cadence of hope threading through the chaos surrounding us. With every breath, I dedicated a piece of my soul, a promise of survival. Then, as I leaned down, cupping his face in my hands, a stirring presence ignited in his eyes, a flicker battling against the relentless shadows that threatened to consume him. Come back to us, Captain. I whispered fiercely, and in that silent plea, something shifted within me. It was in that moment the storm parted, the rain lightening, and a glimmer broke through the clouds, a shimmer of sunlight pushing back the veil of despair. I felt warmth beckoning me toward him. Please, please. I urged, tears filling my eyes as he coughed. Water burst from his lips, surrendering the remnants of the sea as consciousness flickered back into his gaze. The captain's breathing came raggedly at first, weak but complete. The corner of his mouth turned upward, fighting against exhaustion as he met my gaze, growing more alive with each passing second. Jenna, he murmured, a flicker of awareness returning to his voice. The spark of life ignited the dim corners of his strength, his hands clasping mine as he breathed deep, defiance shining brightly amidst the storm. You came for me, he rasped, the air a whisper between us, the warmth of hope wrapped around that singular moment. We're still here together, and with that, the storm broke, dissipating all around us, lighting embraces of dawn stretching across the water. The sun pierced the clouds, casting warmth over our small band, bathing us in a glow that felt like sheer gratitude unfolding. I simply held his gaze. You're not alone anymore, Captain. As the storm faded and the vast ocean unveiled its tranquil surface, a powerful wave of acceptance washed over me. Everything we had endured had not been in vain. We had each other, bound together by shared survival, fueled by the tenacity of the human spirit, and in that moment, as the captain leaned back against the raft, my heart swelled. I understood then what the storm had taught us all. Survival was not merely about enduring the tempest but learning to find warmth in one another, to lean on the bonds that united us amid uncertainty. Each moment in our darkest hours led us here, and together, we would reclaim our lives. As a gentle breeze swept across the raft, I took a deep breath, carrying that sense of renewal within me. Life, even in its most trying forms, promised protectors, allies, and the capacity to love fiercely, no matter where the winds of fate directed us. With a final glance at the horizon stretching endlessly ahead, I whispered, together, we'll navigate any storm. And as I clung firmly to my friends and all they represented, hope blossomed within my heart, a promise that, against all odds, we would rise anew.